The notification chimed at exactly 9:14 p.m. while I sat in my home office, reviewing client proposals for tomorrow's presentation. Beck Darren, senior copywriter at Henderson and Associates. That's me. 15 years of crafting compelling narratives for corporate clients, and now I was about to live through the most twisted story of my own life. If you keep calling me. During my meeting, I'll block you. I stared at Zoya's text message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Meeting? At 9:14 on a Thursday night? My wife had told me she was having girls' night with Lana and the usual crew from her creative director position. Last I checked, wine and gossip sessions didn't involve formal meetings. I typed back a simple okay and hit send. Then I did something that would prove crucial in the coming hours. I forwarded her message to my personal email account and saved the delivery receipt. Old habits from advertising die hard. Always document everything. The house felt different, with Zoya gone. Our suburban home in Millfield had always been her domain. Sleek glass tables, minimalist furniture, everything perfectly arranged like a magazine spread. I preferred my cluttered office with its mismatched bookshelves and coffee-stained desk. At least here, things felt real. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed the tablet we used for household management. Zoya had insisted on syncing all our devices for efficiency: smart home controls, shared calendars, even her car's navigation system. She claimed it helped coordinate our busy schedules. Tonight, I was grateful for her obsession with connectivity. Opening the navigation app, I pulled up the history from her car's GPS system. The data loaded slowly, revealing a pattern that made my stomach tighten. The same address appeared repeatedly over the past 2 months. 1247 Riverside Drive, Unit 12B. Every other Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork. I cross-referenced the dates with my calendar. Every single visit coincided with her supposed girls' nights or late work meetings. The address was downtown, nowhere near Lana's house or the wine bar they claimed to frequent. My copywriter instincts kicked in. In advertising, we call this the story behind the story, the narrative that clients don't want you to find but always exists beneath the surface. I'd built my career on uncovering those hidden truths and crafting them into compelling campaigns. I printed the navigation log, all 6 pages of damning evidence, the timestamps, the duration of visits, the frequency. It read like a schedule, a very intimate schedule. Walking to the entry table, I placed the papers face up where Zoya couldn't miss them. Then I did something that might seem strange, but made perfect sense given what I suspected was coming. I opened our smart home app and generated a temporary access code for the front door, the kind we usually created for delivery drivers or repair technicians. This one would expire at midnight, giving someone exactly 2 hours and 20 minutes to use it. I'd done my research on 1247 Riverside Drive. Public property records showed it was owned by Rachel Vell, a corporate attorney at Brennan and Associates. Married to Marcus Vell, account executive at, surprise, Henderson and Associates, my own company. The same Marcus who joined our team 6 months ago and immediately started working closely with Zoya on the Hartwell Industries account. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Zoya's sudden interest in working late, her new wardrobe of expensive dresses charged to our joint credit card, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner. Even her recent suggestion that we take a break from trying for kids suddenly made sense. I sent a carefully worded text message. "Rachel, this is Beck Darren, Zoya's husband. I believe we need to talk. I'm at 428 Maple Street. The door code is 7739, valid until midnight. Come alone." Then I waited. At 11:40 p.m., the doorbell rang. I remained in my office chair, watching the security camera feed on my laptop. A woman stood on my doorstep, tall, professional, carrying a small pharmacy bag. Rachel Vell, I presumed. She looked exactly like her LinkedIn photo, though considerably more tired. I heard the front door chime as she entered the code. Her footsteps were measured, deliberate. Through my office door, I watched her read the navigation logs I'd left on the table. She studied them for a long moment, then placed the pharmacy bag beside them. The bag bore a CVS label with Marcus Vell's name clearly visible, along with a prescription for antibiotics commonly used to treat certain infections, the kind that unfaithful spouses sometimes bring home as unwelcome souvenirs. "Mr. Darren?" she called softly. I emerged from my office. Rachel was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the sharp eyes of someone accustomed to reading between legal lines. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I should thank you," she replied, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "I've suspected for weeks, but I needed proof. Your wife isn't as discreet as she thinks." "Neither is your husband." She nodded toward the pharmacy bag. "Marcus picked this up yesterday. I found the receipt in his jacket pocket. The prescription dates back 2 weeks, which means Zoya's been exposed," I finished, "and probably doesn't know it yet." "I need you to stay quiet about my visit," Rachel said. "At least for now. I have my own plans for dealing with this situation, and they require careful timing." "What kind of plans?" "The legal kind. Marcus thinks our prenup is ironclad, but he's about to discover how wrong he is. Adultery voids several key provisions, especially when it involves professional misconduct." I heard Zoya's car pulling into the driveway. Rachel heard it too. "That's my cue," she said, moving toward the door. "We'll speak again soon, Mr. Darren. I suspect we can help each other." The front door opened just as Zoya's key turned in the lock. I watched from the hallway as my wife stepped inside, expecting to find an empty house. Instead, she came face to face with Rachel Vell. "Here," Rachel said calmly, handing Zoya the pharmacy bag. "Your boyfriend left this at my apartment. He won't be needing it anymore." Zoya's face went white. She looked from Rachel to the navigation logs on the table, then to me standing in the hallway. "Beck, I can explain." "No need," I interrupted, walking to the table and picking up an envelope I'd prepared earlier. "I think this explains everything." I handed her the separation notice I'd drafted using my legal writing experience from years of contract work. Clean, simple, and legally sound. "You have until Sunday to collect your belongings," I said. "The locks will be changed Monday morning." Rachel had already slipped out, leaving Zoya holding the pharmacy bag like evidence of her own conviction. "Beck, please. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I replied, walking toward my bedroom. "The guest room is available if you need somewhere to sleep tonight. Otherwise, I'm sure Marcus can find you accommodations." I closed the bedroom door and turned the lock, leaving Zoya standing in the entryway with the ruins of her secret life scattered around her feet. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of Zoya's car starting in the driveway. Through my bedroom window, I watched her reverse out and speed away, probably heading to Lana's house to craft some damage control strategy, or maybe straight to Marcus to warn him about Rachel's unexpected visit. My phone buzzed with a text from Omar, my best friend and the owner of Murphy's Tavern downtown. "Coffee? You sounded weird in your voicemail last night." I'd called Omar around midnight after Zoya had retreated to the guest room, told him I might need a place to decompress today. Omar had this uncanny ability to read between the lines, probably from years of listening to customers pour out their problems over whiskey. "Be there in an hour," I texted back. Murphy's Tavern occupied a corner building that had housed a bar in various forms since 1952. Omar had bought it 5 years ago and maintained its working-class authenticity while adding decent coffee and reliable Wi-Fi. It attracted an eclectic mix of early morning regulars, construction workers, night shift nurses, and the occasional advertising executive seeking refuge from corporate coffee culture. I found Omar behind the bar, prepping for the lunch crowd. He looked up when I entered, took one look at my face, and poured 2 cups of coffee without being asked. "Rough night?" he asked. "Zoya's having an affair." Omar set down the coffee pot carefully. "You sure?" I pulled out my phone and showed him screenshots of the navigation data. "Same address, twice a week, for 2 months. Guy's name is Marcus Vell. Works at my company. Son of a... Omar caught himself. What are you going to do? Already started. Served her separation papers last night. Her lover's wife helped deliver the evidence. Omar raised an eyebrow. Come again? I explained Rachel's visit, the pharmacy bag, the whole surreal confrontation. Omar listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or shaking his head. So what's your next move? He asked when I finished. Honestly, I'm not sure. Part of me wants to expose them both at work. Marcus is up for promotion to senior account executive. Zoya's been positioning herself for creative director. An affair between colleagues would torpedo both their careers. But I keep thinking there might be a better way. Something more comprehensive. Omar grinned. You want to get creative with your revenge. I want to be smart about it. Emotional reactions lead to mistakes. Strategic thinking leads to results. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Rachel. Can we meet today? I have information you'll find interesting. I showed the message to Omar. Looks like I'm not the only one thinking strategically. Where do you want to meet her? Somewhere public but private, somewhere Zoya and Marcus won't accidentally show up. Omar thought for a moment. There's a coffee shop in the Riverside district, about 10 minutes from that apartment address you mentioned. Called Grind Coffee. Quiet during afternoon hours, good sightlines, multiple exits. You sound like you're planning a covert operation? Maybe I am. You helped me through my divorce 3 years ago, remember? Time to return the favor. I arranged to meet Rachel at 2 p.m., then spent the morning at Murphy's, using their Wi-Fi to research everything I could find about Marcus Vell. LinkedIn profile, social media accounts, professional background. The man had a pattern of changing jobs every 2 years, usually under circumstances that weren't entirely clear. His previous employer was a marketing firm in Chicago that had folded amid rumors of financial irregularities. Before that, an agency in Milwaukee where he'd lasted 18 months. I made note of the contact information for former colleagues who might be willing to share insights about Marcus's professional conduct. At 1:45 p.m., I drove to Grind Coffee. The place was exactly as Omar had described, quiet, with good visibility, and an atmosphere conducive to discreet conversation. I ordered a latte and chose a corner table with a view of both the entrance and the back exit. Rachel arrived precisely at 2 p.m., wearing a charcoal business suit and carrying a leather portfolio. She looked every inch the corporate attorney, composed and purposeful. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the opposite chair. Thank you for last night. That was effective. I believe in direct communication when circumstances warrant it. She opened her portfolio and removed a manila folder. I've been investigating my husband's activities for 3 weeks. What I've discovered goes beyond simple adultery. She slid a photograph across the table. It showed Marcus and Zoya at an upscale restaurant, clearly intimate. But that wasn't what caught my attention. They were seated across from 2 people I recognized, clients from the Hartwell Industries account. When was this taken? I asked. Last Tuesday. The same night Zoya told you she was working late on the Hartwell presentation. Who took it? A private investigator I hired. But here's the interesting part. Look at what's on the table. I studied the photo more carefully. Beside the wine glasses and dinner plates, I could see the corner of a document folder bearing the Henderson and Associates logo. They were sharing client information, I said. Confidential strategy documents, according to my investigators' telephoto shots. Marcus has been feeding Hartwell's competitors inside information about your agency's campaign proposals. The implications hit me like a truck. That's why we lost the Morrison account last month, and the Blackstone bid. Your husband and my wife aren't just having an affair, Rachel continued. They're engaged in corporate espionage. Marcus has been using his access to steal campaign strategies and sell them to competing agencies through intermediaries. She produced another document, bank statements showing deposits into an account under Marcus's name. The amounts corresponded roughly with the value of the accounts Henderson and Associates had lost to competitors. How long has this been going on? Based on the financial records, at least 4 months, possibly longer. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Adultery was personal. Corporate espionage was criminal. "What do you want from me?" I asked. Evidence from inside Henderson and Associates. Email records, document access logs, anything that shows Zoya's involvement in providing Marcus with confidential information. And in exchange, I help you destroy them both, professionally and personally. I'm filing for divorce next week, but I want to time it for maximum impact. If we coordinate our efforts, we can ensure they lose everything: their jobs, their reputations, and their future prospects in this industry. I thought about Zoya's ambitions, her carefully cultivated professional image, her network of industry contacts, everything she'd worked for over the past decade. How do we do this without exposing ourselves to legal liability? Rachel smiled for the first time since I'd met her. Leave the legal strategy to me. I specialize in corporate litigation, remember? I know exactly how to document everything properly and present it to the right authorities. Authorities? The State Attorney General's office has a white-collar crime division that takes corporate espionage very seriously, especially when it involves theft of proprietary information and conspiracy to defraud clients. We spent the next hour planning our approach. Rachel would continue gathering financial evidence while I focused on documenting the information theft from inside Henderson and Associates. We agreed to meet again in 3 days to compare findings and finalize our strategy. As I drove home, I felt something I hadn't experienced since discovering Zoya's affair: a sense of purpose. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about justice. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoya. "We need to talk, I'm coming home at 6. I replied, "The separation agreement is non-negotiable. Bring boxes for your things." Then I called Omar. "I'm going to need that drink after all." Zoya arrived at exactly 6 p.m., carrying takeout bags from our favorite Thai restaurant. She'd changed into the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year, a calculated choice designed to evoke positive memories. Classic manipulation tactic. "I brought dinner," she said, setting the bags on the kitchen counter. "We should talk before making any permanent decisions." I remained seated at the dining room table, laptop open, working on what appeared to be client proposals. In reality, I was documenting every file access log I could pull from our company's shared server system. "There's nothing to discuss," I said, without looking up. "You've been lying to me for months. The evidence is overwhelming. Beck, please, it's complicated. Adultery usually is." She sat down across from me, her expression shifting from conciliatory to defensive. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under at work, the expectations, the competition for promotion. Marcus offered support when I needed it most." Support? I finally looked at her. "Is that what we're calling corporate espionage now?" Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I turned my laptop around, showing her a spreadsheet I'd created correlating Henderson and Associates' lost accounts with Marcus's employment start date. The pattern was unmistakable. Hartwell Industries, Morrison Group, Blackstone Development. 3 major accounts we lost to competitors after developing comprehensive campaign strategies. All 3 losses occurred after Marcus gained access to our client files. You're being paranoid? Am I? I opened another file, email metadata showing document downloads from our shared server. These logs show someone with Marcus's credentials accessing confidential client files outside normal business hours, files he had no legitimate reason to view. Zoya's composure cracked. "You can't prove anything." "I don't have to prove anything. Rachel already has bank records showing payments from competing agencies to accounts under Marcus's name. The FBI's white-collar crime unit will handle the rest." "The FBI?" Her voice was barely a whisper. Corporate espionage is a federal offense, Zoya. Conspiracy to defraud clients, theft of proprietary information, wire fraud. We're talking about serious prison time. She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. This is insane. Marcus would never. Marcus has been fired from 3 agencies in 5 years under suspicious circumstances. Did you know that? Or were you too busy playing house with him to check his background? I'd spent the afternoon calling former colleagues at Marcus's previous employers. The conversations had been enlightening. Marcus Vell had a reputation for cutting ethical corners and burning bridges. 2 of his former supervisors had used the phrase untrustworthy opportunist independently. What do you want from me? Zoya asked. The truth. How long have you been feeding him client information? She was quiet for several minutes, staring out at our neighbor's perfectly manicured lawn. Finally, she turned back to me. It started small. He asked about general industry trends, nothing specific. Then he mentioned how helpful it would be to understand our strategic approach for comparison purposes. When? 3 months ago, maybe 4. Which files did you share? Just preliminary research, market analysis reports, nothing that seemed proprietary. I opened another document on my laptop, a detailed list of every file accessed through Zoya's credentials over the past 4 months. The list was extensive. According to server logs, your account downloaded complete campaign proposals for 7 different clients, including final presentation materials and budget breakdowns. I didn't know he was. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Meeting with AG office scheduled for Monday. Are you ready? I showed the message to Zoya. That's Marcus's wife. She's been building a case against both of you for weeks. Monday morning, she's presenting everything to the State Attorney General's White-Collar Crime Division. Zoya sank back into her chair. Beck, please. I made mistakes, but I never intended. Intent doesn't matter. Results do. Henderson and Associates lost over $2 million in potential revenue because of information you provided to Marcus. Our clients lost competitive advantages. People lost their jobs when we had to downsize after losing those accounts. What can I do? Nothing. It's too late for damage control. I closed my laptop and stood up. Your belongings need to be out by Sunday. After Monday, you'll probably want to hire a criminal defense attorney. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I walked to my office and closed the door, leaving Zoya alone with the takeout dinner and the wreckage of her carefully constructed lies. Through my office window, I watched her load boxes into her car over the next 2 hours. She moved mechanically, like someone in shock. Part of me felt guilty for the calculated coldness of my approach, but I reminded myself that she'd made her choices. Now she had to live with the consequences. At 9 p.m., she knocked on my office door. I'm staying at Lana's tonight, she said. I'll be back tomorrow for the rest of my things. Fine. Beck, I'm sorry for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix anything. After she left, I called Rachel. How did it go? She asked. She admitted to sharing client files, claims she didn't understand the implications, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Good. I have news too. Marcus came home tonight and found divorce papers on his desk. He's been calling and texting for 3 hours, alternating between apologies and threats. Threats? Empty ones. He's scared. His attorney called an hour ago asking about settlement negotiations. Are you interested in settling? Not a chance. I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This isn't just about the affair anymore. It's about justice. I understood exactly how she felt. Friday morning brought an unexpected development. I arrived at Henderson and Associates to find Marcus's office empty, his personal items gone. His computer was still on his desk, but his access badge was sitting beside it, the universal sign of involuntary termination. Beck, can I see you in my office? Linda Harrison, our managing partner, appeared in my cubicle doorway. Her expression was grim. Linda's office occupied a corner of the building with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Millfield. She'd built Henderson and Associates from a two-person startup into a regional powerhouse over 15 years. Nothing happened in this company without her knowledge. "Sit down," she said, closing the door behind us. "We need to discuss some irregularities that have come to our attention." "What kind of irregularities?" "Server access logs show unusual patterns of file downloads over the past several months. Downloads that don't correspond to assigned project responsibilities." My stomach tightened. Had they discovered my investigation into Marcus and Zoya's activities? "The IT department flagged several accounts for suspicious activity," Linda continued, "including yours." "Mine?" "You've been accessing files outside your normal project scope. Client accounts you're not assigned to, financial reports above your clearance level, personnel records you have no business viewing." I realized she was talking about my research into Marcus's background and the evidence gathering for Rachel's case. In my focus on documenting their crimes, I'd left a digital trail of my own investigation. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. But first, I need to understand what you know about Marcus Vell's activities." The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "Marcus was terminated yesterday afternoon after we discovered evidence of unauthorized information sharing with outside parties. His computer contained downloaded copies of confidential client files that he had no legitimate reason to possess." "I see." "The question is whether he was acting alone or had inside assistance." Linda opened a folder on her desk and removed several printed documents: server logs, email records, file access reports. My name appeared frequently throughout the documentation. "Your account shows extensive research into Marcus's employment history, investigation of lost client accounts, and correlation analysis between his hire date and competitive losses. Either you're involved in his scheme or you've been conducting your own investigation." I made a decision that would determine the trajectory of everything that followed. "I've been investigating Marcus and my wife for corporate espionage," I said. "Zoya has been providing him with confidential client information in exchange for personal favors." Linda leaned back in her chair. "Personal favors?" "They're having an affair. Zoya has been sharing client files to maintain the relationship. Marcus has been selling that information to competing agencies." "Can you prove this?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photographs Rachel had provided, the bank records, the correlation analysis I'd created. Linda studied each piece of evidence carefully. "Why didn't you bring this to management immediately?" "I needed to build a complete case before making accusations. Corporate espionage is a serious charge. I wanted to be certain." "And now you're certain?" "Completely. Marcus's wife has been working with federal authorities to build a criminal case. The evidence will be presented to the Attorney General's office Monday morning." Linda was quiet for several minutes, reviewing the documentation. Finally, she looked up at me. "Zoya is scheduled to present the revised Hartwell proposal Monday afternoon. That presentation is now canceled." "You're suspending her?" "I'm terminating her, effective immediately. Security will escort her from the building if she attempts to enter." "What about the criminal investigation?" "Henderson and Associates will cooperate fully with federal authorities. We'll also be pursuing civil remedies for damages related to lost accounts and compromised client relationships." I felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. The professional consequences were now in motion, but the personal aftermath was just beginning. "Am I under suspicion?" I asked. "Your investigation was unauthorized and potentially problematic from a legal standpoint, but your motives appear legitimate. Consider this a formal reprimand for failing to follow proper channels." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. This situation is going to generate significant negative publicity for the agency. We'll need to manage client relationships carefully to minimize damage." I spent the rest of Friday documenting everything I knew about the compromised accounts and preparing briefing materials for the legal team. By 5 p.m., I was emotionally and mentally exhausted. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoya. "They won't let me into the building. What did you do?" I didn't respond. Another text arrived 10 minutes later. "Marcus says you've been spreading lies about us. This has gone too far." Then another. "I'm coming to the house tonight. We need to resolve this before it gets worse." I forwarded the messages to Rachel and called Omar. "I need a place to stay tonight," I said. "Zoya's threatening to come to the house, and I don't want to deal with another confrontation. Come to the bar. I've got a couch in the office upstairs. We can order pizza and figure out your next move." Murphy's Tavern was busy for a Friday night, filled with the usual mix of neighborhood regulars and downtown workers unwinding after the week. Omar had reserved a corner table for us, away from the crowd but with a clear view of the entrance. "So they're both fired?" Omar asked, sliding a beer across the table. "Zoya is. Marcus was terminated yesterday. The criminal investigation starts Monday." "How do you feel about it?" I considered the question. Relieved, mostly. Like I can finally stop pretending everything is normal. "What's your biggest concern now?" Zoya's desperation. When people lose everything, they become unpredictable. She's facing criminal charges, unemployment, and divorce simultaneously. That's a lot of pressure. "You think she'll try something stupid?" "I think she'll try to blame me for everything. Make herself the victim and me the vindictive husband who destroyed her life." My phone rang. Rachel's number. "Beck, we have a problem," she said. "Marcus just showed up at my apartment with Zoya. They're demanding I drop the criminal complaint." "Are you safe?" "I'm not at home. I saw them from the parking garage and left immediately. But they're persistent. Marcus has been calling every 5 minutes." "Where are you now?" "Driving around downtown. I don't want to go home until they're gone." "Come to Murphy's Tavern on 5th Street. We can plan our next move." Rachel arrived 20 minutes later, looking shaken but determined. She'd changed from her usual business attire into jeans and a sweater, making her appear younger and more vulnerable. "They're panicking," she said, joining us at the table. "Marcus called his attorney this afternoon. Apparently, the potential charges are more serious than he realized." "How serious?" Omar asked. "Wire fraud carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. Conspiracy to commit corporate espionage adds another 10. Even with plea bargaining, he's looking at significant prison time." "And Zoya?" "As a co-conspirator, she faces similar charges. Plus, her professional reputation is destroyed. No agency will hire her after this." We spent the next hour strategizing about Monday's meeting with federal authorities and discussing security concerns. Rachel had already changed her locks and installed additional security cameras. I decided to do the same. At 10 p.m., my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. "Beck, this is Lana. You need to know that Zoya is talking about doing something drastic. She's been drinking all evening and making threats." Lana was Zoya's closest friend, the one who'd supposedly been hosting girls' nights while Zoya conducted her affair. "What kind of threats?" "She says you've ruined her life and she's going to make you pay. She's also talking about confronting Rachel directly." "Where is she now?" "She left my place an hour ago, said she was going to fix this mess once and for all." I hung up and immediately called Rachel. "You can't go home tonight. Zoya's looking for you and she's been drinking." "I'm staying at a hotel downtown. Already checked in." "Good. I'll do the same." Omar overheard the conversation. "You're both welcome to stay here. I've got 2 couches upstairs and a security system that would make a bank jealous." We accepted his offer, and I spent Friday night in the back office of Murphy's Tavern, listening to the sounds of late-night revelry downstairs and wondering what Zoya would do when she realized she'd lost everything. Saturday morning brought an unwelcome surprise. I woke up on Omar's couch to find 17 missed calls and 23 text messages, all from Zoya. The messages started apologetic and became increasingly hostile as the night progressed. "Beck, please call me. We can work this out. I know you're angry, but destroying my career won't fix our marriage. Marcus says you've been planning this for weeks. Is that true?" You're ruining innocent people's lives for revenge. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. This isn't over. Rachel had received similar messages, though hers focused more on legal threats and demands to withdraw the criminal complaint. She's unraveling, Rachel said, showing me her phone over coffee in Omar's office. Marcus, too. His messages are getting desperate. What's our security situation? I hired a private security firm yesterday. They're monitoring both my apartment and office. You should consider doing the same. Omar looked up from his laptop. Or you could handle this the direct way. Meaning, confront them publicly. Take away their ability to control the narrative by forcing everything into the open. That's risky, Rachel said. It could compromise the criminal case. Not if we do it right, Omar replied. Beck's a copywriter. Rachel's an attorney. Between you two, you should be able to craft a public statement that protects the legal case while exposing their behavior. I considered the suggestion. Zoya and Marcus were operating from desperation, which made them dangerous but also predictable. They would try to manipulate the situation by positioning themselves as victims of a vindictive spouse and a jealous wife. What kind of public statement? I asked. Social media post, professional networking sites, something that presents the facts without editorial commentary. Let people draw their own conclusions. Rachel nodded slowly. It could work. If we stick to documented facts and avoid emotional language, it won't interfere with the criminal investigation. We spent the next 2 hours crafting a statement that detailed the timeline of discovery, the evidence of corporate espionage, and the involvement of federal authorities. The tone was professional and factual, letting the evidence speak for itself. At 2 p.m., we posted the statement simultaneously across LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Former colleagues began sharing stories about suspicious behavior they'd observed. Clients started asking questions about the security of their confidential information. Industry contacts expressed shock and disappointment. Within 3 hours, the story had been picked up by the local business journal and 2 regional advertising trade publications. My phone rang at 5 p.m. Zoya, you've destroyed everything, she said without preamble. My career, my reputation, my future. Are you satisfied? I didn't destroy anything, I replied. I documented what you destroyed. No one will hire me now. Do you understand that? You've made me unemployable. You made yourself unemployable when you decided to steal client information. I never stole anything. I shared some research with someone I cared about. That's not a crime. Actually, it is. Corporate espionage is a federal felony. Marcus says his attorney can prove you fabricated evidence. Marcus's attorney is preparing a plea bargain. He knows the evidence is legitimate. There was a long pause. When Zoya spoke again, her voice was different, colder, more calculated. I want to meet, tonight. Just the 2 of us. We need to discuss terms. Terms for what? Your cooperation in making this go away. There's nothing to discuss. There's everything to discuss. You think you've won, but you haven't considered all the consequences. What's that supposed to mean? Meet me at the house at 8 p.m. Come alone. If you don't show up, I'll make sure everyone knows about your own professional misconduct. She hung up before I could respond. Rachel looked concerned when I explained the call. It sounds like a trap. Probably. But I'm curious about her leverage. What professional misconduct could she be referring to? Does it matter? You shouldn't meet her alone. Omar agreed. She's desperate and possibly unstable. Nothing good happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. But I was intrigued despite the risk. Zoya had sounded confident about having some kind of leverage over me. As a copywriter, I was trained to understand subtext and hidden meanings. Her threat felt specific, not generic. I'll meet her, I decided. But not alone, and not at the house. I called Zoya back. We'll meet at Murphy's Tavern at 8 p.m. Public place, neutral territory. That's not what I suggested. It's what I'm offering. Take it or leave it. She agreed reluctantly. At 7:45 p.m., Omar positioned himself behind the bar with a clear view of our table. Rachel sat in a booth across the room, pretending to work on her laptop, but actually recording everything on her phone. Zoya arrived precisely at 8 p.m., wearing the same blue dress from Thursday night. She looked exhausted and older than I remembered. The stress of the past few days had taken a visible toll. "You look terrible," I said as she sat down. "Thank you for that. Very supportive." "I'm not here to be supportive. You said you had leverage. Let's hear it." She opened her purse and removed a manila envelope. "Remember the Morrison account? The one we lost to Brennan Creative last month?" "What about it?" "You were the lead copywriter on that campaign. You also had access to Brennan Creative's preliminary proposal through your contact at their agency." I felt a chill of recognition. She was referring to Tom Bradley, a former colleague who'd moved to Brennan Creative and occasionally shared industry gossip over drinks. Tom mentioned their general approach during a casual conversation. I didn't use any specific information. "That's not how it will look when people see these." She slid several photographs across the table. They showed Tom and me at various restaurants and bars over the past 6 months, apparently engaged in intense conversations. "These prove nothing. They prove you had regular contact with someone at a competing agency while working on accounts where that agency was also bidding. Combined with your sudden interest in investigating corporate espionage, it creates an interesting narrative. You're suggesting I was engaged in the same behavior I accused you of? I'm suggesting that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones." I studied the photographs more carefully. They were taken with a telephoto lens from considerable distance, suggesting professional surveillance. The timestamps showed they'd been taken over several weeks. "When did you have me followed?" "I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago when I suspected you were getting suspicious about my activities." "So you knew I was investigating you?" "I knew you were acting differently, more secretive, asking unusual questions, staying late at the office. I thought you might be having an affair." The irony was staggering. While I was gathering evidence of her infidelity and corporate espionage, she was gathering evidence of my supposed professional misconduct. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to withdraw your cooperation with the federal investigation. Tell them you made mistakes in your analysis, that you misinterpreted the evidence." "That's not going to happen." "Then I'll release these photographs along with a detailed statement about your relationship with Tom Bradley. I'll suggest that your accusations against Marcus and me are projection, an attempt to deflect attention from your own unethical behavior. No one will believe that, won't they? You've admitted to unauthorized access of company files, investigation of personnel records, and correlation analysis that went far beyond your job responsibilities. Add regular contact with a competitor, and the picture becomes murky." She was right about one thing. The photographs would complicate the narrative, even though my conversations with Tom were innocent. In the court of public opinion, perception often mattered more than truth. "You have until Monday morning to decide," Zoya continued. "Either you help me minimize the damage, or I ensure you're destroyed along with us." She stood to leave, then paused. "I loved you, Beck, I still do, but I won't let you ruin my life without consequences." After she left, Rachel joined me at the table. "Did you get all of that?" I asked. "Every word, and the photographs don't prove what she thinks they prove." "How so?" "Tom Bradley contacted me yesterday after seeing our social media posts. He's willing to provide a sworn statement about the nature of your conversations. Apparently, you never asked him about specific proposals or campaign strategies." "That's correct." "Then her leverage is worthless. Bluffing with weak evidence is a classic desperation move." Omar brought over 3 whiskeys. "So what's the plan for Monday?" "We proceed as scheduled," Rachel said. "The federal case is solid regardless of Zoya's threats." "And if she releases those photographs anyway?" "Then we release Tom's statement and let people decide who's telling the truth." I raised my glass. "To the truth, whatever the consequences." We drank, and I realized that for the first time in months, I felt genuinely optimistic about the future. Zoya's final desperate gambit had actually strengthened my position by revealing the weakness of her defense. Monday morning would bring the culmination of everything we'd worked toward: justice, consequences, and the beginning of a new chapter. The truth, as they say, would set us all free.